at one point at the conference when I was back down there. Met my wife in Arizona. Lots of love for Arizona in general. Got me away from Ohio. I grew up in Ohio in the Midwest. I knew I didn't want to stay there, so I went down to Arizona to learn software engineering, and then found mobile development 11 years ago, and then now I'm here. I've been building apps with .NET for 15 years at this point. Found Xamarin 11 years ago, went to work at Xamarin as an advocate, helping people learn the technology. I just fell in love with it. I thought it was so cool building iOS and Android apps. I blog about it. I make videos about it. I make libraries. I think what I love about .NET is the community, the ecosystem, the things that you can do with it, obviously, and the real people that are passionate about it, just like in any community. They're building stuff, they're evolving it, they're making it their own. Like, I'm building apps, I'm shipping apps, I'm putting code in it, and I'm then giving it back, right? I'm open sourcing it. It's kind of like this new beautiful world. When I worked at big small corporations, actually, we did no open source at all. And as soon as I moved into the Xamarin, Microsoft world, everything became open source, just became free, just became this really beautiful thing, and just helping people go off and do stuff. And I love it. I love people that love it, and that's what I surround myself with. I have an awesome team at Microsoft of community managers. All we do is focus on growing .NET and Visual Studio and VS Code and other services and cool stuff that we build at Microsoft. And it's super fun to just chat with the community, people just getting into coding for the first time. MVPs have been doing it forever. I love it. I just love every bit about it. So I don't know, it's special. Everything about being in the community, in the developer community, and even in the low-code community, there's like so much crossover that you can pick and choose from. When I started building mobile apps, it was like one iPhone that was like 3.5 inches and used hard-coded values. Like, well, it's never going to be bigger than 480 by 320. Like, well, who would make a phone bigger? And like now it's got like all this craziness, and we got watches, and we got tablets, and we got TVs, and we got goggles, and we just got, it's crazy. It's just a crazy, wild ride. And I think with mobile development it was a special time. It was kind of like just when like the desktop PC hit, right? It was a special like turning point, just like when the web hit, like the web, the PC, mobile. Like, I think it just became this really, really pinnacle point that if you jumped in, you could still jump in. We're still in early days of really evolving and seeing where this thing is going to go, is all of the paths that you can take. And I think it's really, really cool. My favorite thing here of Jose is that he has got a folder that just says $, $. I'm interested what's in that folder in the tab, or is, I don't know if it's sharing the screen, yeah. Anyways, that's interesting to me. I'm just saying. I like that. I like he also has like a DAO, an NFT, a crypto. I like his folder.
Yeah, and if
so
you
funny.
check
Real
layer,
life.
if you check layer,
Whoa.
you just go Azure, WordPress, SAF, Blazor, CI/CD, like Unity, Reflection, Face. Oh, like I have so many bookmarks that I have to install just a Chrome extension to search my bookmarks. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I have to say, James, I know that we say that a lot, and like I have heard you and Frank say it, I have heard the Richard Campbell and Carl Frankie say, but I don't think that there is a better time to be a .NET developer right now. Right now, .NET is not tied to Windows. Right now, .NET is in Linux, is in Mac, is in Windows, in iOS, is on Android. Right now, MAUI is giving official support. Microsoft to Mac is giving official support to iOS. So this is a great moment to be a .NET developer, and we are really excited to this presentation because especially Jose and I will always joke about this, but we have never. And I will be somehow identified with what you used to say a lot in the podcast about, like, I don't know what the code is running in web, it's running on the browser, it's running on the server, what is happening here. But the truth is, Blazor came to for at least for us, and I have nothing bad to say about JavaScript. It's just not my cup of tea. And Blazor came to tell me, hey, do you know Ready.net? Do you know Visual Studio? Do you have your libraries, your Nugget, the way that you do things? Use it. you can use it right now and you don't have to do nothing. Just use it on the client, use it on the server, go for it. And now you're gonna show us that also I can use the same thing and make it native. So, and also mix and match. So think about that. It's like perfect word here.
Yep, I agree. I think so, and it's like you can pick and choose what you what you want to build, and world of opportunity.
Okay, so last thing that I'm gonna say before I pass the screen completely to James is like this is a workshop that James created for .NET MAUI. It's really comprehensive. He can tell you about it. It's more like 8 hours or something crazy like that. If you go about that, you see you can say displaying data, MVB, navigation, platform features, collection view, app themes. This is a great starting point for MAUI, so highly recommended. So with that being said, James, the screen is all yours.
Cool. All
And thank
right.
you for being here. As always, everyone, feel free to ask questions at any time, and James will get back. Will get back to you right away.
Totally. Yeah. It's definitely, when I think about, chatting at user groups and things like that, I always think about a different experience, right? When you go to a conference, you're sitting, you're listening, and at the end you get to raise your hand, you get to do stuff. I ran a user group in Seattle for 5, 6 years. I think the best part was, interacting, answering questions, things like that. So I always have my chat window open. I'm going to be doing some demos, doing some stuff. I know the guys are going to be monitoring stuff, letting people in. So yeah, just, if you have any questions about anything, doesn't have to even be about the topic if you want. Save those till the end maybe, but on topic we can go through in general. So like Jose said, I'm James Montemagno, so I've been at Microsoft for 6 years. I was at Xamarin 4 years before that. I was building professional applications with Xamarin for 2 years before that. So I guess it's been almost 12 years building apps for iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows with .NET. I've been a .NET developer way before that. I started in college back in 2005. I made printer software at Canon. I made DVR hardware and software at a company up in Seattle, and then I just found mobile, and that's all I ever wanted to do again. I'm not a web developer, though. In general, my wife is the web developer, so she's the web expert. She's also a .NET developer, which is pretty rad. And she knows everything about the web. I know nothing about the web. I barely know how it works. However, I think when it comes to Blazor, it's a unique platform for developers to build a component-based web application using C#. And in the instance where you can just write C# instead of JavaScript, it's just this beautiful thing. It actually helped me understand and made me want to build web applications more. Because I could always build the mobile app, and I was like, well, how do I get a website? How do I add the functionality? It's like, well, and now I can, whether I want to do it fully with Blazor or not with Blazor. So I think that was a really cool part of it. And there's been a lot of talks here at the user group, as they pointed out, and I think it's great. I'm not going to do too much of a crazy introduction on anything. I want to get to some code, get to some cool samples, show you the vision. But what the .NET team has always been really envisioning is this really unified platform for developers to build anything, right? Whether that is a web application, desktop app, a mobile app, a game, an IoT device, infuse it with AI or different clouds that are in there. Kind of want you to build everything, share code everywhere, use one language, use one runtime, use the same tools, get access to the huge ecosystem and community of people building stuff, right? So yeah, I'm a mobile and desktop application client developer, but I build serverless applications with Azure Functions. I deploy microsites with Blazor. I've built games with not only Unity, but also other 2D game engines. And then the other thing is, like, whenever I'm ready to kind of light up my application with some more stuff, there's cognitive services or machine learning that I can do to kind of stay in this realm of doing .NET. And even when I'm doing low code, let's say like I'm going into Microsoft Power Automate or Power Apps, I can power that stuff with .NET and run APIs in the back end. I can call functions. Like, I can be super crazy productive because I am a pro code developer that can do full pro code stuff, but I can also blend that with low code solutions too. So it's kind of this beautiful world where, like, even these like 7 different little bubbles don't even really scratch the surface of the things that you can do with .NET in general. There's just so much to it. And it runs everywhere, right? It's running on in Linux, on my Mac, on cloud. It's running on this Raspberry Pi. It's running everywhere. Anywhere it's running on an Xbox. It doesn't matter. It's going to run everywhere. I think that's the cool part about it. So when I really look at this bubble, a lot of the app development that would be done traditionally beyond gaming is looking at that web, desktop, and mobile. And what we have at Microsoft as the core platform beyond the languages at runtime are two frameworks that really come together to enable developers to do so much more. And the first is Blazor. So that is our component-based C# web app platform for building web apps that are interactive from C#. You can write JavaScript if you want, or you can just write everything in C#. You can call that JavaScript from C# or just write C#. You want to do 1 + 1 = 2 and update a button and a label, just do it from C#. It handles everything for you automatically, and it runs in a bunch of cool modes I'm going to talk about today. What's cool about Blazor is that it runs in a bunch of modes, but it also supports things like progressive web apps. So you can take that Blazor application and put it in a PWA. I don't know why I put it in a PWA, because it would be a PWA. It's not a quote. It's a real thing that you can do. And then on the other side, we have .NET MAUI. And .NET MAUI is the latest UI framework from Microsoft to build cross-platform native applications from a single C# code base for iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows. And what's great about this is that underneath these two frameworks are really powerful platforms. On the Blazor side, it's powered by ASP.NET Core, the same exact web framework that's been used for decades by developers around the globe. When it comes to .NET MAUI, that UI framework is built on top of the fundamental pieces of iOS, Android, and Mac for .NET, which came from Xamarin iOS, Xamarin Android, and it evolved and it became part of .NET, all up with the same runtimes and base class libraries and same integration, same tooling, same ecosystem, which means everything is sort of at this integrated part right now with .NET 6, which is the latest release of .NET, that you get to do all of these things. So I want to talk about both of these two individually, then I want to talk about them together in this system. So if you don't know anything about Blazor, it is really this full stack web platform for .NET. And it's powered by ASP.NET Core. And what's beautiful about it is that traditionally you would run ASP.NET Core on the server, and then you would kind of pick the UI framework of your choice. Maybe it's Angular, maybe it's React, maybe it's MVC, maybe it's just some JavaScript-y stuff with Bootstrap and all this other stuff. But the downside here has always been that you're interrupting with JavaScript, you're going back and forth, you have to have these servers, you have to go back, all this other stuff. And really what developers wanted to always do is come in and just write C# and run .NET code everywhere, and that's what Blazor does. It puts .NET directly in to your browser, or basically still running on the server with the power, but still being able to get rid of the necessity of JavaScript and write everything in C#. So these are the two different modes. So what's cool about it is it's a flexible framework that you can swap back and forth between. So Blazor Server, you still have servers, you're still running servers, you can scale them up, scale them out, do whatever you want to do. And what's cool here is that you take these Razer components that can be composable and shareable, and that runs directly into in the browser, but the communication is happening over a real-time SignalR connection. So all of the number crunching, all the DOM handling, everything like that, to you as a developer is just in C#, and then all of that logic, all that number crunching is happening over in on the servers. So what this means is that you as a developer, when someone clicks on a button, you just have an event that gets called and you execute your logic. You don't have to write some JavaScript that does this other thing. No, you just say, when someone clicks on this button, execute this code, and it's beautiful. It's kind of like what Xamarin developers and Windows developers have loved for so long. It's like, hey, I have an app, just like when I click the code, run the code. On the flip side over here on the right is Blazor WebAssembly. And WebAssembly is an open standard, so it's a standard that's implemented across all browser stacks, mobile and desktop. And what's amazing about it is WebAssembly enables you to run code from other languages beyond JavaScript natively in the browser, as long as it adheres to the WebAssembly standards. So what's cool about this is that you can create fully disconnected applications with Blazor and run that code inside the browser. Like the code is in the browser. It's inside. The batteries for this mouse are inside of it, right? So it's inside that thing. And that's really cool because that, to me, is the first signal of what I'm used to as a mobile developer, which is I have a button on the screen and the code is executed inside of it. Now there's trade-offs here, right? So there's not one execution model that's right for everyone, because Blazor server is going to be high scale, high throughput. You have to have a connection, but you can scale out, fan out, and do all these other things. And you have the power of the server to number crunch as fast as humanly as possible. If you think about it like this, if you're running WebAssembly in the browser, you, one, have to get like a little .NET runtime in the browser. It's pretty small. It's as low as like 300, 400 kilobytes. But additionally, beyond that payload, what machine are the users running it on? Are they running it on a Chromebook? Are they running it on an old Android phone from 5 years ago, right? So there's some implications of what you're building. So whatever experience you want to deliver, you have these options. But in either regard, it's a very flexible framework, and you'll see even how more flexible it is when you combine it with .NET MAUI. And .NET MAUI, like I said, is the latest open source app platform from Microsoft for building those modern, performant, multi-platform apps, world-class for iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows from a C# single code base powered by .NET. And what's really cool about this is that it enables you to use a bulk of shared code directly across iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows, and still render a native UI or a custom-drawn UI with a full cross-platform drawing API available to you using native or Skia renderers, which is really cool. But what's great about this is that that shared code is multiple things. It's the business logic of your applications. That's things like your models, your view models, your services, your databases, things that are just like .NET code, right? It's just, I'm going to create a SQL database, a SQLite database, and it's just a database, and it's cool, it's just there. Or I have a bunch of models, and maybe I'm sharing those models with my website, or I'm sharing it with something else, or I'm downloading NuGet. It's just code that's running. The other thing that's cool about .NET MAUI is that it has a bunch of platform features that are abstracted into a common API. We often refer to these as essentials. And in .NET MAUI, they're just part of .NET MAUI. They're baked into the SDK, which means that you can get access to things like connectivity, the file system, different sensors, file pickers, taking photos, geolocation. There's over like 70, 80 different APIs that are all built in cross-platform. So the team did the hard work of writing that iOS and Android, Mac, and Windows code, and you just have access to it from a single API, which is really cool, just like you would from .NET. The other thing is there's a bunch of resources too, so things like splash screens, icons, images. If you have SVGs, it handles all that for you automatically. Regex files, just raw assets. Everything is 100% shared and optimized across each platform. So you just drop in a few SVGs and do some colors, and it'll generate your splash screen. It'll generate your font, your icons for you. It'll handle font embedding for you automatically. Kind of those hard bits of cross-platform development simplified with .NET MAUI. And then the last part is just UI. You can create C# or XAML, an XML-based markup language, to build pages, screens, full applications, navigation, buttons, images, pickers, all these different things that you can imagine, and a full canvas to draw on as well. And I think what's cool is that all sits here, as you can see, with the capabilities of still accessing the iOS, Android, Mac, or Windows APIs from C#. So that's one of the powerful features, is that the raw APIs of iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows are available. So if there's like a really cool feature that you want to get access to, let's say on iOS, maybe like Siri. I want to integrate with Siri. well, there's no Siri on, like, Android, for example. There might be a Google Assistant, but it might be completely different, and they have different things, or maybe Apple comes out with, something new. I don't know, some like goggles or something like that, right? Like that's an API goggle kit or whatever they're going to, call it at some point. But like you can have access to that from C#. So you don't have to necessarily write Objective-C or Swift or Java or things like that. And the best part too is like .NET MAUI is a bunch of other things too. So it's not only just pages, layouts, and control. It has two-way data binding, navigation, and animation API, dependency service, support for continuous integration, platform API access, default theming, light theme, dark theme mode, all these other things built in. There's so much that I probably can't even like actually put on this slide if I just keep adding checkboxes. Because as the team evolved this framework, which evolved from Xamarin Forms, which had 7+ years of development and learnings from developers, they're able to modernize it, build it from the ground up, and get it out there. And this thing just hit generally availability in May. So it's new, it's hot off the presses, so it's not a perfect product. No product is, but it's pretty close. Now, what I think is really neat, though, is for developers that want to live in just a client development stack. Hey, James, I'm just a XAML developer. I've been doing this all my life. I don't want to build web apps. That's fine. You don't have to, right? You can continue to build and use, C#, .NET, .NET MAUI. There's other great, amazing things from the .NET community. Uno, Avalonia. My buddy Frank has MAUI, which is really cool. And these are all their frameworks that are built. They're built on top of that iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows chunks there, right? So it's just a .NET app. So whether you're using .NET MAUI, whether you're using something else, like you're using the same stuff under the hood, which is really cool. You can live and just be in there, right? But if you are a web developer, you're like, hey, I want to update my skills, and when it comes to web, I just think that, it's a good repertoire to have just in my back pocket, do some web development. That's what I always like, is dabble a little here and there. That's where I think Blazor is a really great opportunity, because if you're either using Blazor or coming from ASP.NET, it's a natural transition. But if you're coming from the world of client development, it also feels pretty at home, and you'll see what I mean here a little bit. So if we take these two things, which is Blazor and .NET MAUI, what we want to do and what the team wants to enable is, one, a very fancy animation. Let's look at that one more time. Oh my gosh, that's just a built-in transition, by the way. I did no hard work there. Let me show you how I did that. So if you've ever wondered how to do that, so all I did was, look at this. I have this line, and then I have this line, and then all I did is there's this morph button. See that? What it does is it says, I took this and I copied it and I rearranged stuff, and then I morphed it. And that's it. So when I do that, I just learned about this morph like not too long ago, so it just blows my mind. It's just like the coolest thing. You're like, wow, James, PowerPoint. But yeah, it's amazing. Look at this. I did no work. Somebody coded that, and that's amazing. Anyways, what you want to do is you want to build for everything at the end of the day. And that is where the power of Blazor and .NET MAUI comes together in something that the team calls Blazor Hybrid. And Blazor Hybrid can be powered by .NET MAUI, but it can also be powered by other frameworks as well, such as WinForms or WPF. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit, in case you want to see some cool WinForms in action with Blazor. It's mind-blowing. So Blazor Hybrid says, hey, listen, take your Blazor components and share it directly into other frameworks, leveraging Blazor and .NET, since .NET is running there. And how this works is that for each platform, .NET MAUI, for example, there's the underlying native desktop or mobile application that's powered by .NET MAUI, running on iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows. And what Blazor Hybrid does is it enables you to take advantage of the optimized native web views that are built into each platform and execute your Blazor logic and components inside of the web view. The key difference compared to Blazor Server or Blazor WebAssembly is that there is no WebAssembly. There is no server. .NET is already running because .NET MAUI is powered by .NET. So when you execute .NET code with Blazor Hybrid, it's just using the runtime that's there. So if you run it inside of a Windows app or a WinForms app, it's just running whatever version of .NET you're running, right? It's just executing that code. So what this means is that you get this really powerful architecture, which is that you get to build for all of the platforms, you have all that shared business logic, and you then get to share the Blazor components across the different applications. And what's neat about this is it doesn't mean that your applications have to be one-to-one 100% the same. As you know, if you've ever gone to, I was just setting up internet over here where I'm at, and I had to set up Spectrum internet, which was a terrible experience. But they had a mobile app and they had a desktop app. And then, sorry, they had a mobile app and a website. And the website has about 800 features in it, right? But the mobile app has like 6 things that it needs to do, right? And I can tell that half of those things are native integrations, doing stuff, using different things, and then half of them are web views and they're sharing components back and forth because they want to be able to be really productive, right? So you can sprinkle in a little bit or do a lot, and that's what I'm going to show you tonight. So let's get into it and talk a little bit about what this looks like over here when I get started. So I am currently using Visual Studio on Windows, Visual Studio 2022. And this is the current preview because even though .NET MAUI is generally available, the tooling for it is going to be finalized in Visual Studio 2022 17.3, both on Mac and Windows, which I think is in about a month or so. There's a big event on August 9th. That's great that it called, you know, who would think you'd have an event around a date something happens. I don't know if it's exactly that date, but, you know, things are going to be going on because Visual Studio ships every 3 months. So .NET ships every month, including updates to .NET MAUI. Every 3 months is more of an update to Visual Studio, like a major release. And then every year there's .NET Comp, so there'll be .NET 7 this fall with a new major release of .NET MAUI. So I was just explaining that to someone today. It's like when did the latest version of .NET come out? 2 days ago. It's kind of wild. So over here, when I say file new project, there's all sorts of different projects in there. So like Blazor Server, Web API, all this other stuff. And the reason I can see this is I'm going to open up the Visual Studio installer over here. And the only thing you need to do when you install Visual Studio 2022 is check the .NET MAUI button here, and then the ASP.NET one. This gives you your Blazor stuff. This gives you your MAUI and Windows stuff. And if you still need to do WPF or WinForms or Console Apps, you would check this one too. But it'll give you everything you need. Tony asks, I recently had implemented a signature feature in my Blazor web assembly. I ended up using existing JavaScript called Signature Pad. I found it very slow and implemented. Would you rather try to create a new library using existing JavaScript library? Ooh, good question. So a question that Tony has here is, hey James, here in this world, some of these Blazor WebView components might be running some JavaScript things. Some might be optimized, some may not be optimized based on the device they are. It's going to kind of depend on where you're running the logic in general. The cool part is this mix and match capability, so you can mix in some Blazor and some native controls. If you actually were to look at maybe like drawing and graphics, some of that stuff may be faster. Well, everything native will always be faster, always. With obviously trade-offs, right? You did zero work and you just got the stuff, right? And maybe it's good on higher end phones or something like that, and maybe it's for your use case, maybe it's not. But you might be able to drop something in like the drawing view in the .NET MAUI community toolkit. There's a whole canvas drawing API, it's 3 lines of code. You could easily mix and match that together. That's what I would look at over there. Cool, good question. And we'll talk about that performance stuff as well. So that's all I have installed there. So what I like to do is I like to go to this drop down and tap on MAUI, and it gives me 3 templates. .NET MAUI app, so this is just 100% .NET MAUI, no Blazor, just full-on XAML everywhere. .NET MAUI Blazor app is a Blazor hybrid application powered by .NET MAUI. I don't think we've really gotten the names correct everywhere, but that's what this template is. And then there's a class library, which is a class library, but it enables you to do the multi-targeting and stuff like that. So I'm going to create this .NET MAUI Blazor app. I'm going to hit next. And we're going to call it MAUI app 3. That sounds great. And then to run it on .NET 6, that's the only one I've installed. I'm going to hit create over here, which is cool. All right, it's going to create my project. So I'm going to go ahead and move it to the correct screen. There we go. And I'm going to make this font real big. Perfect. And then I am going to move my face over here so I can see stuff. Cool. All right. So if you're a Blazor developer today, if anyone's a Blazor developer, you're like, this probably looks familiar. There is an app over here. And then I have some data. I have, let's see if the Zoom thing works here. I have a data folder over here in this MAUI app 3. I have pages, so I have Razer pages here. So counter.razer, fetchdata.razer, index.razer. I have a shared folder with more Razer, the survey component. I have a dub root with some CSS. Basically, it's a Blazor application. Down here, there's like a main Razer app over here, which has like my routing and assembly information. But mixed into here is a bunch of .NET MAUI specific things. Because again, it is a .NET MAUI application hosting Blazor web views inside of here. So the first thing is that if I drop down this dependencies list, we can see that I'm targeting Android, iOS, Mac, and Windows all from this project. If I drop down platforms, down here I actually have not only Android specific resources, a little bit of source code here, manifest information, I have iOS information. We also support Samsung Tizen. The Samsung team supports that, which is cool. You can like ship to like their, televisions and refrigerators and stuff. And then there's a Windows app. So this is a Windows app, and this is running on WinUI 3, the Windows App SDK, so the latest and greatest. And Mac Catalyst is the Mac application. And Mac Catalyst is a new piece of technology from Apple that enables you to bundle up your iOS application into a native Mac app and light it up with Mac capabilities. A lot of the Apple applications are now written with Mac Catalyst. It's definitely their future. Then over here, we have these resources. There's a bunch of new folders on. There's app icons. We have different SVGs, fonts that are embedded in here, images, raw, splash screens that are in here. And these are all .NET MAUI specific things. So if you need to access images from .NET MAUI, you put them inside of here. If you need to update your splash screen, things like that, that's the .NET MAUI stuff. But your Blazor stuff is inside of the Razer pages and the dub root. And here's my bootstrap, and here's all my other stuff that I have. Now, like any .NET application nowadays, there's a main program file. And this program file is the main startup. So it kind of looks like similar to Blazor, but it's a little bit different because it's a MAUI app. So it's this is almost exactly the same as a MAUI startup, but it has just a little bit more code here to add the Blazor web view. So this uses the same builder pattern. It uses a MAUI app. It can configure fonts. You can configure lifecycle events. You can configure third-party extensions, all that stuff from here. And you have all of the built-in dependency injection service, IOC, constructor injection, all that good stuff. And what we see here is that we're injecting and adding the MAUI Blazor web view. And in debug mode, I'm adding developer tools. So I can debug and F12 and see things pop up on certain platforms. And then finally, I'm adding this little singleton into the weather service. This is a very standard Blazor application. Now, the difference is that this thing is creating an app. So it says, hey, use app, and an app over here is sort of a resources and some styling here. It has a little bit of XAML code behind, which tells this application to create a new main page. So again, like the app starts up, it says create this app. The program starts up, creates the app, and it says please use the main page. And the main page here is a Blazor web view. So it's actually a little bit of XAML. And the XAML, it says this is the .NET MAUI content page. It's going to use this resource here. We have a Blazor web view. And then what we have is it's referencing this component type of main over there, which is cool. So now what I can do is I can debug this thing. And when I hit this little chev down here, this little drop down, I can decide if I want to debug to Android, iOS, Mac, or Windows. So here's my Windows over here. If I want to go to Android, I can look at emulators, local devices, simulators. I can connect to a Mac or plug in a Windows machine or an iOS device into my Windows machine. We're just going to debug over here real quick. And what we should get is basically now a WinUI3 app, but rendering out the Blazor web view and Razer components. So it's just going to boot up here. There we go. I'm in full debug mode, so I got like, diagnostics, I got all the power of Visual Studio, all that stuff. And sure enough, it's opening on the other monitor, and let's put it here, and amazing. So here is my Blazor app. If I pull it over, if I shrink it down, full CSS styling, I have counters, I can click on stuff, I come over here, I got, my Blazor application, same exact stuff over here. If I come into this application, and this should work, but of course I'm always in preview mode, so who knows what's ever going to happen. Let's say I go into my index. Right now I have this little survey. Let's do a counter. There we go. Perfect. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit this little hot reload button. And ideally, if I go back to home, now I got a counter over here. I can increase my counter. So I'm just kind of like using hot reload. Let's see if my normal logic here. So if you've never seen Blazor before, this page here, this counter is a component. Every page is a component, but basically when I ingested it into the home page, you saw it just added counter. That entire component underneath is very composable, which is cool. But this has, H1, it has this current count, which has like this binding here to current count. It has a button that when you call increment count, it's going to increase that count. So if I was to change that to like plus equals 10, classic demo, hit save here, and now it's increasing, let me zoom in, increasing over here by 10 every single time. And of course I could make that like super big if I wanted to. Just make that an H1 for some reason. There we go. And hit save there. There we go. Now it's big and you can see it now. That's super rad. So like I'm just doing stuff. But if I hit F12, what that does is it brings up the Microsoft Edge tools. And like this is running internally, right? So this is because I have debug mode on, is I can see here's the Blazor WebView.js. I can see that there's other things here. I can use these tools to get into it, right? Which is kind of cool at the end of the day. So I think that's what's really neat. But the other neat part is that I can still tap into capabilities of this platform. So for example, let's say I wanted to add another button here, and I say check internet. I'm going to say check internet. Yep, and it doesn't exist, so let's add a void here. I'll say check internet. That should work. Let's see if I broke everything or not. Hot reload. Boom, check internet, which is just incrementing the count, so nothing crazy, right? But let's say I wanted to say the bar has internet. What I can do is I could say Microsoft.MAUI, because I'm inside of .NET MAUI, okay? And inside of here is all sorts of different features. There's things like application model, authentication, the controls, device information, the file system, all sorts of different interfaces for just about everything under the sun. There's a few other things in here, such as the MAUI context. There's state management. There's basically everything that you can possibly manage. But a lot of stuff is like under this application model. So we can see the app model is holding a lot of different cross-platform APIs, such as app actions, app information, launching the browser. There's communication and data transfer. There's maps, so launching the maps on the desktop, handling permissions, version tracking. There's all this stuff built in. If we look at communication, hit dot, we have things like contacts, email, phone, SMS, all that stuff. Now, somewhere in here is connectivity. There we go. Which lives inside of Microsoft MAUI networking.connectivity. So what I can do is I can say dot, and I can say network access. I can say if it equals the internet, then I have internet, right? Now that's not checking like browser stuff. That's going to check the native Windows implementation under the hood, okay? So I think one, that's super duper neat, is like that code there is executing code to check for the internet. Now I can also show you exactly where that lives. I can go to github.com/.net/MAUI. I can go there. I can click on source. I can click on essentials. I can click on the source for essentials. I can go to connectivity, and I can go directly into the Windows implementation, and I can look at all of the code that's going to be called when that's run. So saving me 100 lines of code to do that. I look at the Android implementation, right? I could just call this code directly if I wanted to, but I have it all here for me. Hundreds of lines of code that you don't have to write. It's amazing. So let's do that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up something. So I'm going to pop up an alert, a dialog box, and I could pop up like a JavaScript alert, but this is a native app, so I probably want to use native features. So I'm going to do something which is take advantage of .NET MAUI's built-in pop-up system to request like yes, no, data entry, display list of data. So I'm going to say MAUI app 3 dot app dot current dot main page dot display alert. There's action sheets, there's prompts, and there's alerts. So here, what this enables me to do is do a title. So I'll say has internet, question mark. And then here, I'm just going to output has internet. And then I'll say, okay, cool. Has internet. There you go. And now what I'm going to do is hit the hot reload button. Cannot convert bool to string. Let me just edit it. .to string. That worked. I knew it was going to be mad. Let's see. Oh, cool. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's amazing. I didn't even stop coding. I didn't even prepare. I didn't even try this. I was like, it just works because the team's amazing. That's amazing. So look at that. So it has internet. True. I'm not going to turn off my internet because that would be no good, right? So it tells me if I'm using a native WinUI 3 pop-up here, which is pretty cool because I'm on Windows 11. So awesome, cool. This is cool. Now, let's check this out, though. Let's say I want to do something else. I'm going to stop debugging, and I'm going to come over here. Oops. I'm going to come over here. Oh, my gosh. How do I use Zoom? No. Oh, I stopped presenting. Oh, my gosh. Oh, hold on. Okay. We're back. Okay. I'm going to come over here. I didn't do anything behind the window, I swear. Okay. How do I get rid of this thing? Okay. I'm on Windows 11, and I'm going to use the Windows subsystem for Android. So I'm going to use Windows to run my Android application. So this is an extension built by Jonathan Dick, who's the team lead of .NET MAUI, and I have it installed. It's called Barista, the Windows subsystem for Android Barista, and it sets up the Android subsystem, initializes it, gets your whole machine set up. It's all fancy. It's amazing. And it's initializing down here, and it's totally running, and this is it. It's running right here, so this is the one Windows subsystem. There's a bunch of apps installed. I can open the file system, and there's like totally Android apps running on my Windows machine. It's a crazy day to be a developer. But now, I can go to this drop-down. Can't see it because the Zoom thing's there. But I can go to Android, and now this shows me that the Android subsystem for the Microsoft, what is it called? Windows Corporation Subsystem for Android is now here and enable me to debug and run my application directly on my Windows machine. So I could plug in an Android device, I could open an emulator, but who wants an emulator when you can just use your Windows machine and all of its power as an emulator? Who doesn't want that? So this is now going to go through, and it's going to build up a native Android application using all the logic I just wrote to build and deploy that up. The first time it does it, it takes I don't know, 30, 60 seconds or so. So let's see if I can talk my way through this, and let's see if there's any chat. Oh my gosh, there is. Could you share that tool in the chat? Yes, I can. So you can actually go to Marketplace Visual Studio, boop, and then boop, and then do Barista. There it is. More people need to install it. It's amazing. I did a whole video with John Vick on our .NET YouTube. Okay, cool. Oh, and my app is running. It's on the other screen because I have two monitors. But oh my goodness, look at this. It is literally now an Android application. You don't really know, but you kind of know now because that's a different dialog box. That is an Android dialog box checking internet connectivity. And in fact, over here, if I right-click on the application and say App Settings, which is on this over here, this is the app. It's an Android application. This is an Android screen over here. It's running on the Android subsystem over here, which is really cool. So you get all this capability, all this stuff. Now, let's say you wanted to do something a little bit different. Let's say you wanted to use tabs. So instead of a content page, I'm going to do a tabs page over here. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this tab pages have pages. So I'm going to put this Blazor content view in here. And instead of referencing local over here, I'm going to say pages as my namespace. So I'm going to say index for my first one. So let's give this a title, and I'll say home. And then let's just create a few more pages in here. Boop, boop, cool. And then I'm going to say counter, and then I'm going to say counter. I'm going to say weather. And then we're just going to go here, and I'm going to say counter. And then I'm going to say weather, or fetch data. It's a weird thing to call it. And then I just got to change one more thing, which is change this to also be a tab page. Cool. So now I'm just fundamentally changing how my entire application looks and feels, and my plan here is to use native tabs on Android. So sure enough, you know, the default here, based on my spacing, if I'm on a tablet here, I can put these on the top or on the bottom, but I get the tabs on top, Android look and feel, same capabilities, but now I'm embedding basically 3 different web views inside of here, right, which is really flipping cool. Now, the other part is like, let's say I go over here and I change this to Windows, boop, and I come over here. I'm now going to be using native Windows controls at the end of the day because now I'm running a Windows application. So if I do this here, so here's my hot reload stop. So we got new application booting up. Boom, it's on the other screen, of course. Amazing. So now I have the actual, you know, Windows-specific stuff that's over here, right? And I could spice that up. I could add in like CSS animations. I could do a whole bunch of stuff, right? Super cool. But then you're like, well, where's the website, James? All right, great question. So here's what I'm going to do. Is I just have a MAUI application. And now let's say I do want to share a new component I'm building with both a MAUI app and a Blazor app. So let's do that. I'm going to go in, I'm going to add a new project, and I'm going to create a new Razer class library. And Razer class libraries are shared pieces of Razer component functionality. So I can share this between any ASP.NET application. So I can just go ahead and do this. And we'll call it Razer class library 1. That seems legit. And .NET 6, perfect. Cool. And this does one thing. Basically, it just has this component that is defined. It has a little CSS. It has some JavaScript interop stuff in here that you can do optionally if you want to, but it's there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to go, let me close a bunch of this stuff. There we go. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say add project reference. I go Razer class library. Okay. And now let's just go into that index page. And this thing was called Component 1. Razer, bam. Just reference it, right? So now I'm just going to run it again. And now, basically, I have a completely separate project that I'm referencing into my .NET MAUI application. So you can imagine there's all these NuGets, there's all these Blazor things. You just pull it right in there. So again, it's opening another screen, and here's what it looks like. It's a beautiful, look at that. It's beautiful. It's grayed out. It looks like it's not rendering correct, but that's literally what it looks like, and that's it. So it's really cool. So you get that in there. You get all your checks. You're doing the stuff. So now what I can do is I can come over. I'm going to say, well, let's add a new project. Let's just add a Blazor app. Server, WebAssembly, it doesn't matter. Who cares? We're just going to add it in here. Cool. That sounds great. And we're just going to add it. And just like I did before, I'm going to add a new project, Razer Class Library, hit OK. Now here, what I would do is I would probably take these counters and index and fetch data and put it into the shared library, but for demo's sake, I'm just going to come into here and I'm going to say Razer Class Library 1, bingo bango, and now set this as my startup, and hit go. And now, after I allow this SSL cert and other dialog boxes and more SSL certs, there you go, perfect, with a new machine, so which is also true. This is a Surface Laptop 4. I'm very impressed. Look at this. Boom. Amazing. Look at that. I'm literally sharing that component from the app that was right here. Boom. Right? But in this instance, I'm using these native tabs. I'm doing stuff like that. And I have this all beautiful thing, all working, just super duper good. And I can customize. I can add stuff. I can spice it up. I'm checking connectivity. I'm doing all sorts of stuff. It's amazing. Awesome. Whew, so good. And that's just the beginning. Let's keep going. All right. So that's what I think is like super duper cool, right? You got all this functionality, everything baked in there, and you got web, desktop, mobile apps, just .NET, just everything in there. It's super good. What's cool here is that those applications that I ran, the iOS and Android apps, the Windows app, the Mac applications I booted up on the Mac, they're running 100% natively on the device based on the process that's there. So as fast as that thing can crunch HTML and JavaScript and doing the rendering, it's all super fast. But the .NET is running locally and super duper fast. Now on the flip side though, what's cool is that this means it doesn't require HTTP, it doesn't require a network, and there's no browser sandbox because you can punch in and out of the browser. You saw some frameworks are just like browser only, that's all you get. No, you can mix and match those things together. So the HTML is only rendered in the web view, and that .NET code is executed on the .NET runtime. So this means that you get to reuse existing web skills, libraries that are out there in your .NET MAUI application. Even if you're a .NET MAUI application developer and you're like, I don't even know how to do this 3D view, I don't know, just pull it from the internet, pull this other thing that's over there, you're good to go. You can access the native capabilities like I showed you. You can mix and match the native and web UI. Ideally, it's meant to help reduce your app development time and ship these applications to the App Store or for internal distribution. Tony asks, I love questions, Tony. What if I want to share everything between my web project and my everything? Yes, I'm about to show you. You're ahead of the game. Because here's what you get to see, is that you as a developer have choices. You can go 100% Blazor, you can go 100% .NET MAUI and the other UI frameworks, or you can sit in this middle layer and blend those two pieces of technology together. And the cool part is that you get to pick a little bit of Blazor or a whole lot of Blazor, right? And actually, funnily enough, what I showed you when I just did File New and I hit Go, that was just 100% of Blazor application inside of this thing. Awesome, right? But I could then go over and say, well, now I actually do want a little bit of, Blazor-y stuff in here, but I want more native-y stuff in here. Good question. Tony asked about navigation. Well, when it comes to navigation, there's a few different ways to do that. If you're 100% Blazor everything, you're just going to be doing Blazor navigation. So for example, you're going to just be going from page to page. But if you use the .NET MAUI navigation system, you would navigate from a native page to a native page, for example. So you might navigate from that tab away into a whole nother one in general. But you can mix and match those stacks together. I'll kind of show you what that looks like. So even that's one of the downside to making every app a MAUI Blazor app. Well, it's going to be a little bit bigger because you're going to have all the Blazor stuff in there, obviously. And then, of course, that's about it, I would say. The Blazor startup time is pretty quick. Obviously in debug it says debug, but then you do ahead of time compilation, it speeds it up as well when you're releasing to the App Store. I guess the downside would be that, the more web stuff that you put in, if you're looking for the finely optimized, tuned, tweaked, hyper-performance, the bare metal, you're not going to get that, right? Because the native stuff will always be the most optimized stuff. But there's that. And especially if you're a web developer, like this is the great opportunity to go there. So what I'm going to show is a little or a lot. So this is my little or a lot demo. I'm going to go to github.com/.net/Microsoft. There you go. /.NET podcast. I'm just going to post this link in there for y'all. Now, this is an application that I helped build with a team that is a podcast application. There's a Blazor application. So there's actually, this is just an ASP.NET Core Razer app. And then when you hit scroll down, there's some featured podcasts. You can hit discover more or sign in. And now we're in Blazor, and we got like merge conflict. That's a good podcast. Too many episodes to load. Come on, should load. I always pick this one. It's like loading all of it. I have the demo server on like free edition, so it's kind of slow. There we go. So we got all these podcasts in here. I can listen to a podcast, stream it from the internet, which is cool. Pause it, do all the stuff that I expect. I can subscribe to it. I want you to subscribe to Merge Conflict. I can go in and say, I got clicked on it. It's going to take forever to load. Should be cached. Come on. Look at that old .NET bot. Come on, .NET bot. Come on. Do it. There we go. I can come in and I can actually hit this like listen later. So listen to all these stuff. It all's over here. Cool. Listen later. There's settings, dark mode, rad. Cool. So what's cool about this is that you have multiple options. So if I come in and I open the, let me open the folder. There we go. And I'm in C, Drive, GitHub, .NET Podcast. There we go. This is where you'll be. When you clone that repo, you can just run it. If you run it, you'll need to configure a few URLs. There's a demo folder there, or you can deploy all the services locally on your machine. But inside the source directory, there is specifically backend services. So there's podcast APIs, worker services, update podcast app. There is the website, so the client. This is the Blazor application. Then there is mobile, which is a .NET MAUI application written with native UI. And then there is a mobile Blazor. So this here, I'm going to open this up, is the mobile Blazor application, or the Blazor application, but in a .NET MAUI app. So actually what we see over here is that there is the NetPods MAUI Blazor app, and it's very minimum. It has an index page. It has minimal code for iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows. There's some service for some JavaScript interop, just stuff that's in here. And it's pretty bare bones in here. There's not a lot happening. There's like the MAUI Blazor web view. There's registering some services, because the bulk of the application is over here. And you'll see why this is important, because there's components, so things like extensions and models and players and shared components. These are 100% shared with the website. Same thing with pages. Here's all the pages of the application. This is from the website. And then there's this shared MAUI lib, which is cool. Because you're a .NET MAUI application, you can actually access things like the media services to do audio playback on Android. So if I boot this up on Windows over here, let me just boot it up. This is the podcast application running now over on my Windows machine. But it is all Blazor. So we're going to deploy successful. All right. Debug mode. All right, it's somewhere. There it is. And it's on the other screen. Cool. So here it is. It's the Blazor application, right? It's over here. If I make this small, it's going to be responsive with CSS. You can see it just kind of like does what it does. It's a website 100%. When I tap on the .NET MAUI podcast, boom, here it is. I can make it bigger again. I can subscribe to the podcast. I can listen later. Same stuff. I get all that great functionality there, all built in. Now, one of the cool parts here is that there's this sort of listen together mode. So, for example, if I'm over in the web and I'm listening to this merge conflict episode, I can hit this little listen together button. I can say I'm James from James on Blazor. You can see I've done this demo before. Hit open room. And now what I can do is take this code, put it in here, hit join room, and I'll say James Windows. Now James on Windows here, this is powered by SignalR, which is just all JavaScript library. And here I can come in and I can start to listen to the podcast. It's going to play, it's going to pause, I can skip forward, I can send emojis across the screen. It's hard to listen to because it's playing multiple times, but I can listen together inside of here. So that's one way of doing it. Now another way of doing it though is check this out, which I'm going to open another Visual Studio, boom, and I'm going to open up the mobile .NET MAUI podcast application. Now this application uses .NET MAUI UI to render native controls and integrations over here. So let me zoom in. And here we can see that I have the shared MAUI lib. So this is that same library accessing the native capabilities from the Blazor hybrid app. I also have components. We'll talk about those in a second. But I have things such as all the platform code, resources code, all my fonts, all my images are in here. I have my services, I have view models, I have my views, I have my, where's my pages at? Pages, boom. Here's my discovery page, and I have all this YAML, so I'm nice at home, I'm doing good. But that listen together page that we're on right here, like this is pretty complex. There's SignalR, there's a bunch of logic, there's a player, there's all this stuff. So what I want to do is inject some of that stuff in here. So check this out. I'm inside of XAML in this page, and everything is 100% native but that page. And here, what I have is a Blazor web view that's going to render that room system, and then I actually have a native player. So even though I'm going to use web UI on top, I'm still using a native controls in the bottom. So that is something that is super duper cool. So let me boot back up my subsystem for Android. And again, this listen together component is coming right from all the room, all the Razer code that's shared already automatically. So I have that there. Let's go ahead and boot this up here as soon as my subsystem for, ooh, it's not going to run. Uh-oh. I do have it deployed already. Let's look. This one. Okay, my Android subsystem for Android is running. Oh, it was running. Oh, it just crashed. Let me try it again. Oh no. Run. Let's try it again. Subsize the subsystem for Android a little touchy. All right, let me try to manually connect over here. Demos. Everything was going so good. All right, let's see. Developer. I'm a developer. Copy. Cool. I don't know why I couldn't connect. Now it's connected. All right, cool. What I just did there, by the way, is I just did this ADB connect, which is Android debug bridge, and I said connect to the IP address, which is right here. That's good. And it should now deploy. Let's see. Oh, nice. Amazing. Right. Hopefully this does it. So this is the little bit, right, of code that we would expect inside of it. Okay. Compile, compile, compile. Drink some water. All right. Well, and if you're ever wondering more about this application, there's like just tons of stuff about it. We actually do performance testing on .NET MAUI, so build times, application size, all that stuff is all inside of here too. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening in this repo. This will deploy. Unfortunately, I have no control over deploy times. Oh, there we go. Let's see, we should get a third. Let's see if it's still connected. It is. Oh my gosh, cool. There we go. Do you feel the Windows subsystem for Android is faster than an emulator? Yeah. In general, unless you like need Google Play services for something specific, but most of the time, if you're just doing normal development, I'd say it's pretty like spot on. I use it all the time for everything. I mean, I do a lot of demos though, so depends. So anyways, here's the podcast application. I can scroll up and down. I get little animations when those come in. I can go into a podcast. That's going to load. I can hit subscribe. I can go to subscriptions. I got my subscriptions. I got to fix that UI a little bit. But I can also go into the together mode, right? Now this is the Blazor view. I'm just going to not paste in that. I'm going to paste in that code from here, copy code, into here, boom, join team. That should work. There we go. So I'll say MAUI, join room. Cool, amazing. So now this all is coming from the Blazor web view, right? But this player down here is a native player using native Android playback, but it's still sending events, as you saw, to those other players that are over there, which is mind-boggling. It's just like so cool. So when you think about the power that you have of mix and match capabilities, it's truly astonishing. Now you're saying, James, this is amazing. I can reuse Razer class libraries, web, native, amazing, cool. I can reuse the entire app. I can mix and match a little bit with these little islands of Blazor. I can kind of grow over time. It's amazing. What else can I do? You can also modernize really old applications. So this is an application that's like it's like a dry clean management software thing that was a WinForms app, and this team went and reinvigorated it with Blazor, and like it became amazing. And then you can now take this Blazor application and turn it into the native desktop app, into a mobile app, and so much more. So check this out. Last demo. Oh my goodness. I'm going to go in to one more Visual Studio. How many Visual Studios can this little laptop handle on dual monitors? All of them. I'm going to open up this one. This is a repo that I have in my GitHub called Blazor MAUI Sync Fusion or something like that. And it's a demo that I do that shows you how you can kind of take third-party controls like Sync Fusion here and put it into a MAUI application, or in this case, I have a WinForms app. Boom. Here's a WinForms app. And if I double tap on the program over here, we can see that I have a program file, a main Razer, I have some shared pages, I just have all that stuff in there. I have just a bunch of logic in here, and if I go into my form designer code, there we go, we can take a look at, I haven't done WinForms in way too long. That's my designer code. How do I get to my code? There we go. View code. We can see here that on this form, I'm initializing the Blazor web view, I'm initializing this weather service, I'm adding Syncfusion here, and this designer here, you can see in my toolbox, over here, there's a web view 2, which apparently isn't going to work. Oh, there it is this Blazor web view component. So if I actually just run this over here, I brought in a NuGet package that was out on the internet for Blazor Hybrid. And if I open this up, which is of course going to be on my other monitor, because why wouldn't it be? Boom. I literally just took a Blazor application, and it's inside of a WinForms app over here, and I just added a Syncfusion control. And I have my counters, I have all the stuff, and it's like, boom, and you can just add this web view control wherever you're at, and it's astonishing. So really put Blazor absolutely anywhere. It's crazy. So do it. Web, native, hybrid, whatever you want to do. These things are built on .NET MAUI or WinForms or WPF. You can modernize your applications. You can go all in. Everything's open source, including Blazor Hybrid on github.com/.NET/MAUI. That's the podcast application. Boom. There is the Blazor Hybrid stuff. And that's it. Thank you so much.
That's an amazing presentation, James. Thanks a lot. One thing that I want to say, I really enjoy when I see someone that I look up to having issues with their presentation, because it makes me feel like at home. It's like that's what I'm having every day. So yeah, that's awesome. I want to mention a couple of things. So the first thing is the Windows system for Linux. That's the really nice things that is getting more features and more features. It's getting more stable, more robust, so that's amazing. The idea that there is like a third mode that is not assembly and there is not a server, that is basically running right there, and the Blazor web view is only showing the HTML UI and is communicating for some type of interop similar. That's amazing. I think that I saw someone from the community that they took some Angular code or something and they injected to the Blazor web view and it didn't care. It just showed it. I saw another example also about WPF using the Blazor web view. So right here, if we think about it, it's just about what do you feel more comfortable with? I remember Billy Holiday saying that XAML was the best UI markup language, and he have a lot of explanation and a whole book about why XAML is the way to do UIs. But I also know a lot of people why HTML is the way to do UI. So it doesn't matter. Whatever you feel comfortable, whatever is more productive, you use it. And in this case, use them all. If you have a mixed team, use HTML, use XAML, use them everywhere. Mix and match. That podcast app is just a beauty. So this was an awesome presentation, James. I really enjoyed. I know everyone here as well did it. I think that you got a lot of praise on the chat. Pedro even was saying that was one of the best presentations he have seen in a long time. So if anyone else have other questions, I really appreciate James being here and talking about us about MAUI Blazor. I personally am really excited about Blazor. If you think about that, even the themes templates right now, when you click File New, are coming with Blazor. The Blazor model and actually the ASP.NET Core model is coming to everywhere. So now you have the same startup, the same dependency injection everywhere, Windows, Blazor, ASP, web, so mobile, MAUI. So we have like a unified way, standardized ways to do everything all across the board. And the idea that we have like it showed with the connectivity, a set of API already done for us that we just call for them and it take care of the rest. That's amazing. If you think about when Xamarin started that we have to do a lot of things by hand, now we just put 3 lines and we're good to go. So kudos to the Microsoft team. Kudos to James, that was one of the ones who pushing for Xamarin Essential, now MAUI Essential. Kudos to all the team for the MAUI toolkit. a lot of great things are coming, and this Blazor integration is just a dream come true, at least for me, because I have never been a web developer, and we're doing a lot of web applications right now. Okay, so if anyone else have another question, feel free to even unmute your mic. Happy to do a quick discussion. If not, I'm gonna let James go. I really appreciate his time here and everything that he does for the community.
Yeah, I'm just
All right.
answering a few questions. So it was just Visual Studio 17.3, which is the preview. Now you can run the preview version of Visual Studio 2022 side by side the stable version. I only run the preview because that's how I live. Why not? Who needs the stable version? I always want the new hotness. I don't want to wait around for it. It's just there. So it's just the tooling, and it's super good. And that should be out, like I said, in stable. I think it's next month. They ship every 3 months, the new versions of Visual Studio. So there's that. I think if there's any other thing. I appreciate everyone, all the great comments, the feedback, stuff like that. Yeah, if you have any questions, you always reach out to me on Twitter. It's just my name. You can just Google me, James Montemagno. There's only one of me. So
I have to mention, like a couple years back, I submitted a question to Merge Conflict. They did a lighting talk, one of those lighting episodes, and they answered my question right there live. So if you have a question, feel free to reach out to them. They definitely do take your questions in consideration. So thank everyone for joining. I think that for the next month we will be doing some Azure. I think that we already covered all the cross-platform, Avalonia, MAUI, Blazor, and now MAUI Blazor. So I think that it's time to do some backend with some Azure, probably some Azure B2C for authentication. And again, thanks a lot for being here, James. And thank everyone for joining. I'm really enjoying all these monthly meetups. Until next time.
Bye. Cheers. Bye.